the offices where logic went on vacation. Workplaces are supposed to be built on logic. Systems, policies, procedures, hierarchies designed to make everything clear and efficient. But in offices across America, a very different set of rules has quietly shaped daily life. Rules written by anxious executives, overzealous managers, confused HR departments, or simply by people with too much authority and not enough common sense. This file isn't about dramatic corporate scandals. It's about the smaller, stranger regulations that make employees question whether the person writing them had ever interacted with another human being. Rules like no drinking water during shifts, no smiling at customers for more than 3 seconds, no using the wrong shade of Post-it notes, no standing still for too long, no heating food that creates emotional reactions in coworkers. These aren't exaggerations. They're documented policies employees were expected to follow. Some rules were born from fear. Fear of lawsuits, fear of disorder, fear of anything unpredictable. Others came from insecurity. Managers wanting control over microscopic details to feel powerful. And some exist for no identifiable reason at all. Artifacts of forgotten memos written by someone who left the company a decade ago. Across these 45 cases, you'll see how the workplace, meant to be a haven of structure, can become a breeding ground for absurdity. A place where logic isn't streamlined, but strangled. A place where order doesn't emerge from rules, but collapses under them. Welcome to the Absurdist Files. File 012. 45 ridiculous workplace rules Americans had to follow, where professionalism is mandatory and logic is optional. Corporate madness, big company rules that defy logic. 1. The office where employees weren't allowed to drink water at their desks. A corporate marketing firm in Chicago banned employees from drinking water at their desks because it looked unprofessional to clients walking by. Hydration was restricted to designated water zones near the break room, timed at 5 minutes maximum. Employees complained of headaches. HR replied that professional aesthetics take priority. The rule lasted 2 years, leading to multiple anonymous reviews online describing the workplace as a dehydration boot camp disguised as an office. 2. The call center that banned standing up. A Texas call center implemented a rule requiring employees to remain seated at all times while on calls because standing creates background noise. Supervisors patrolled the aisles to enforce it. One employee was written up for standing to stretch during a 9-hour shift. HR justified the rule by stating, customers expect stability. The only stable thing was employee turnover. 3. The company that forbade employees from using red pens. A large financial corporation banned red ink entirely because upper management found the color too aggressive and believed it created fear-based communication. Employees were required to use blue or black only. One supervisor was reprimanded for using a red pen on his personal notebook. The rule was so strictly enforced that custodial staff were told to remove any red pens left behind. 4. The retail chain where smiling longer than 3 seconds was unsettling. A national retailer added a bizarre guideline. Employees must smile at customers, but only for 1 to 3 seconds. Anything longer was deemed potentially uncomfortable. Managers received training on smile duration compliance. Workers joked that the company had invented emotional speed limits. Customers, unaware of the policy, wondered why employees smiled like malfunctioning robots. 5. The tech company that banned personal mugs. A Silicon Valley startup banned personal mugs because they interfered with the brand identity of the kitchen aesthetic. Employees were required to use identical, logo-printed company cups and could be written up for bringing their own. One engineer who quietly used a Star Wars mug was lectured on visual consistency. Ironically, the company preached individuality in its mission statement. 6. The office where no one could adjust the thermostat, ever. A New York office building locked the thermostat behind a metal case, accessible only to the building owner, who came by once a week. Temperatures swung from freezing to suffocating. Employees filed dozens of complaints, but management insisted ambient unpredictability built resilience. One worker brought their own thermometer and was reprimanded for data collection without authorization. 7. The workplace that required employees to walk with purpose. A distribution center mandated that workers walk briskly at all times, even to the restroom, because slow walking reduced productivity energy. Supervisors timed how long employees took moving from one section to another. Anyone strolling casually received a warning for low momentum behavior. One employee joked, "I didn't know my job description included Olympic speed walking." 8. The bank that required employees to say absolutely instead of yes. Customer service staff at a major bank were forbidden from saying yes, okay, or sure. They had to say absolutely to every customer request. When someone asked, "Can I have a pen?" staff were required to respond, "Absolutely." Employees complained the rule made them sound sarcastic. Management insisted it built confidence and positivity, even when customers were angry. 9. The office where you couldn't wear black clothing on Mondays. A corporate office in Florida implemented a Bright Start Monday dress code, forbidding black clothing on the first day of the week. The explanation? Dark colors set a gloomy tone. Employees wearing black were sent home to change. On the same day, management sent emails reminding staff to respect personal expression, apparently except in color. 10. The software company that banned using the word problem. An Oregon tech company prohibited employees from saying problem. Instead, they had to use opportunity for improvement. One employee was disciplined for telling a client, "We have a problem with your server." HR told him the phrasing was emotionally negative. Servers kept crashing. Opportunities for improvement skyrocketed. Petty dictators. Rules made by unhinged managers. The petty dictators. 11. The manager who banned employees from saying good morning. At a retail store in Arizona, a manager decided greetings were a waste of time and banned employees from saying good morning, hello, or any conversational openers. Staff were instructed to begin every interaction with, "How may I assist you?" A worker who accidentally said good morning to a customer was written up for non-productive dialogue. The rule lasted 3 months until customers complained the place felt like a dystopian airport. 12. The supervisor who made everyone ask permission to use staples. A warehouse office in Ohio required employees to request supervisor approval for each staple they used. The supervisor believed staplers created paper waste and made people careless with documentation. Workers had to bring their documents to his desk and watch him staple them. An employee once asked to staple 5 pages and was denied because the thickness wasn't justified. Morale was also not justified. 13. The boss who forbade employees from eating crunchy foods. At a small insurance company in Florida, the owner banned chips, carrots, apples, cereal, and anything audibly crisp because chewing noises distracted him. Employees were told to eat only soft foods like yogurt or bananas during work hours. One worker was sent home after being caught with pretzels. HR described the rule as sound sensitivity accommodation. Staff described it as a chew-free prison. 14. The manager who required employees to announce they were going to the bathroom. At a call center in Pennsylvania, employees were told to verbally announce going to the restroom before leaving their desks so the supervisor could track break times. Workers protested that it was humiliating. The manager insisted it was efficiency transparency. Ironically, complaints about this rule took longer than most bathroom breaks. 15. The boss who banned employees from laughing too loudly. At a consulting office in Colorado, a manager created a volume control policy after hearing employees laugh during lunch. The rule stated that laughter must not exceed conversational tone. One employee was reprimanded for a startling burst of laughter. The policy memo ended with, "Workspaces should be serious environments." Turnover became a serious environment, too. 16. the owner who prohibited employees from using umbrellas. A landscaping business in Georgia banned umbrellas for staff walking between buildings because umbrellas look weak and real workers handle weather. Employees got soaked regularly. One worker slipped in the rain and was told the fall was a mindset issue. OSHA disagreed when they later investigated. 17. The manager who allowed bathroom breaks only at even-numbered hours. A bizarre rule at a Wisconsin warehouse required employees to use the restroom only at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, or 4 o'clock, unless it was an emergency, which required supervisor verification. One worker with stomach issues was disciplined for going at 1:47 p.m. HR justified the rule as scheduling consistency. Employees called it biological micromanagement. 18. The boss who banned employees from using the word no. A real estate office in California required employees to avoid negative language, banning the word no entirely. If a customer asked something impossible, staff had to say, "That's not currently aligned with our offerings." One worker slipped and said, "No, sorry," during a call and was written up. The office culture became so artificially positive that workers joked they were living in a cult. 19. The manager who forced employees to clock out when smiling. At a bizarre small business in Texas, the owner insisted smiling wasted energy and claimed employees who smiled too much weren't focusing on productivity. Workers were told to clock out if you feel the urge to chat or smile excessively. One employee was literally written up for grinning at a coworker. The business closed within a year, possibly from lack of joy. 20. The supervisor who required employees to type 100% in Times New Roman. A manager at a logistics company banned all fonts except Times New Roman 12 point. Even internal notes and sticky reminders had to follow the rule. When an employee sent a report in Arial, the manager rejected the file and reminded them that professionalism begins with typography. The team quietly agreed professionalism ended with him. HR horror stories, policies nobody asked for. 21. The HR department that banned employees from helping coworkers lift heavy items. At a warehouse in Tennessee, HR introduced a strict rule forbidding employees from helping one another carry heavy boxes because it created shared liability exposure. Workers were told to file a request for a certified lifter instead. The process took up to 45 minutes. One employee was written up for helping a coworker who was visibly struggling with a crate. HR insisted the write-up was for preventing potential litigation. The productivity collapsed faster than anyone could lift it. 22. The office where staff weren't allowed to hand colleagues scissors directly. A design firm in Oregon implemented a policy requiring scissors to be placed on a table before being picked up by another person. HR said it prevented accidental directional injuries. Employees joked they worked in a scissor de-escalation zone. One intern forgot, handed scissors normally, and had to attend a mandatory safe tool usage refresher meeting. 23. The workplace that required employees to sign a form before using a ladder. A distribution facility in Michigan forced workers to fill out a 2-page waiver before climbing any ladder over 3 feet tall. The waiver asked if they were emotionally prepared for height. Employees called it the paperwork summit. One worker refused to sign and waited 3 hours for a supervisor to arrive, just to change a light bulb. 24. The HR team that banned employees from bringing their own jackets. A mid-size office in Utah banned personal jackets because they clashed with the company's visual identity. HR insisted employees could use only company-issued fleece jackets, thin, poorly made, and available in exactly one size. Workers wore them over their own jackets anyway and were reprimanded. HR claimed the rule promoted unity. No one felt united. 25. The office that required HR approval to move desk plants. At a large insurance firm, relocating even a tiny cactus from one corner of a desk to another required HR documentation because plants affect feng shui flow. One employee was disciplined for moving her succulent 2 inches to the left. HR said she altered energy balance without authorization. She called it adjusting for sunlight. 26. The company that banned scented lotion because it was too distracting. A Nebraska office banned scented lotions, deodorants, and hair products after one executive complained about olfactory interference. Employees were told to use only unscented personal care products during work hours. One worker was sent home because her hand lotion smelled like coconut confidence. The memo warning her was longer than the office handbook. 27. The HR rule that forbade employees from touching chairs that were spinning. A bizarre policy at a marketing company warned staff not to touch a chair while it was still spinning, as it could trigger momentum-based injuries. HR claimed the rule came after someone lightly bumped a rotating chair and it grazed a supervisor's leg. Employees had to wait for chairs to fully stop before sitting. Productivity spun slower than the chairs. 28. The company that made workers log every bathroom visit in a shared spreadsheet. In a call center in Indiana, employees had to enter the exact time of each bathroom visit into a shared Google Sheet so supervisors could ensure equal break distribution. The spreadsheet was visible to the entire team. One employee typed "none of your business" into their row and was written up for insubordination via spreadsheet. 29. The workplace that banned changing light bulbs internally. An office in Virginia prohibited employees from replacing burnt-out bulbs themselves. Only a contracted technician, available once a week, could replace them. Half the office was dim for days at a time. When an employee replaced a bulb herself, she was reprimanded for violating illumination protocol. She argued it improved illumination. HR disagreed. 30. The HR rule that made employees ask permission to sit. A manufacturing office implemented a policy requiring workers to request supervisor approval before sitting down to encourage active posture engagement. One worker asked to sit 7 times in one morning. HR claimed the rule empowered physical awareness. Employees whispered it empowered madness. Insanely specific rules that make no sense. 31. The office where employees could only enter through the back door after 9:01 a.m. A graphic design company in Virginia required employees arriving after 9:01 a.m. to use the back door, no exceptions. HR claimed the front entrance was reserved for punctual energy. Employees arriving even 1 minute late had to walk around the building, even in storms. One worker slipped on ice during the detour and injured his elbow. HR insisted the rule reinforced morning discipline. The only thing reinforced was frustration. 32. The company that banned bananas at desks. A Florida accounting office prohibited bananas because one executive hated the smell and believed bananas lowered cognitive sharpness. Employees caught eating bananas at their desks were asked to finish them outside. One accountant was reprimanded for storing a banana in her drawer. HR argued even the potential presence of bananas was disruptive. No one understood the science, neither did HR. 33. The workplace that required employees to keep both feet on the floor while typing. A Michigan office posted signs reminding staff feet flat equals focus, flat line free. Employees weren't allowed to cross their legs or rest a foot on a chair while working. Supervisors would tap workers' shoulders if they saw legs crossed. HR claimed non-flat feet affected spinal energy flow. Chiropractors disagreed strongly. 34. The company that allowed only one silent nod per meeting. A California marketing agency decided employees were overusing nods in meetings and limited them to 1 nod per session. Excess nodding supposedly showed unprofessional enthusiasm. Managers monitored nod count. One employee was warned for triple nodding with unnecessary emotional vigor. Productivity plummeted because people became terrified of moving their heads. 35. The office where employees couldn't use the microwave before 11:17 a.m. At a corporate office in Arizona, microwaves were banned before 11:17 a.m. exactly to prevent breakfast odors from interfering with brand alignment. HR chose the time after scientific olfactory review, according to their memo. A worker heating oatmeal at 11:14 a.m. was written up. The microwave timer became the most watched clock in the building. 36. The workplace that required chairs to be turned to a 93-degree angle. A Chicago firm mandated that all office chairs be set to a 93-degree recline, not 90 degrees, not 95 degrees. Supervisors walked around with angle measuring tools to ensure compliance. HR argued that 93 degrees was the optimal angle for corporate thought. Employees joked they were working inside a geometry cult. 37. The hospital that banned saying the word tired. A hospital in Ohio required staff to avoid using the word tired because it created negative morale vibrations. Nurses working 12-hour shifts had to say energy fluctuating instead. One nurse was written up for telling a coworker, "I'm tired today." HR insisted the rule protected emotional integrity. Doctors called it delusional. 38. The office where employees could only print documents in multiples of 3. A consulting firm in Washington required that all printed materials be done in sets of 3, 6, or 9 pages to maintain document harmony. A worker who printed a 2-page form was reprimanded for numerical imbalance. HR claimed the rule prevented fragmented workflows. The printers did not seem spiritually aligned. 39. The workplace that banned people from walking counterclockwise. A bizarre startup in California enforced a clockwise-only walking direction around the office after an HR consultant claimed counterclockwise walking disrupted proactive energy. Arrows were taped to the floor. Employees who walked the wrong way received directional misalignment warnings. No one knew why this rule existed, not even the consultant. 40. The company that required employees to announce every time they ate a snack. A small office in Kentucky mandated employees verbally announce, "I am eating a snack," before consuming anything. HR said it prevented conflicts related to sharing expectations. One employee forgot to make the announcement while eating almonds and was reprimanded. The memo was titled, "Unauthorized Nut Consumption." 41. The workplace where employees could only use exactly 3 paper towels. A Minnesota office issued a rule limiting employees to exactly 3 paper towels per restroom visit, no more, no less, to optimized ecological efficiency. Bathroom signs showed a diagram demonstrating correct folding technique. A worker who used 4 was reported by a coworker and faced disciplinary review. 42. The rule that forbade employees from using their left hand to open doors. A Michigan law office implemented a right-hand-only door rule to reduce handle smudging patterns. Employees caught using their left hand were given ergonomic retraining. Workers said it felt like joining a strange etiquette school. HR insisted the rule built consistency. 43. The company that banned coffee after 2:42 p.m. A Seattle tech company banned coffee consumption after 2:42 p.m. because the CEO believed afternoon caffeine interfered with collective circadian synergy. Employees caught drinking coffee at 2:43 p.m. were disciplined. Tea was allowed, but only herbal. 44. The workplace that required employees to clap before logging off. A company in Texas required remote workers to clap twice before ending the workday during Zoom calls, symbolizing closing the energy loop. Anyone who forgot had to log back in and clap. HR described it as mindful disengagement. Employees described it as corporate kindergarten. 45. The rule that forbade employees from using the same elevator as executives. A major corporation in New York enforced a strict policy. Employees could not enter the executive elevator, ever, even if it was empty, even if their own elevator was broken. Workers once waited 25 minutes for an elevator while the executive one sat unused. HR claimed the rule preserved hierarchical mobility respect, rules written by people who forgot how humans work. Across these 45 workplace cases, a strange truth reveals itself. The biggest threat to employee sanity isn't workload, deadlines, or stress. It's the rules. Not the normal rules that keep offices running, not the safety rules that protect people, but the microscopic, arbitrary, emotionally charged regulations created by managers, executives, consultants, and HR teams who seem to experience reality differently from the rest of the human species. In the first 10 cases, corporate policies collapsed under their own weight. No drinking water at desks, no red pens, no smiling for more than 3 seconds, no black clothing on Mondays. Rules so polished, so sanitized, they erased the concept of being human at work. The next 10 exposed the petty dictators, managers who believed authority meant controlling snacks, staplers, umbrellas, laughter, and even bathroom announcements. Workplaces transformed into obedience laboratories. Then came the HR horrors. Scissor passing rituals, bathroom spreadsheets, ladder waivers, jacket censorship, and chair spinning bans. Policies designed not to help people, but to protect companies from imaginary problems. And finally, the chaos tier. Clockwise only walking, 3 paper towel limits, 11:17 a.m. microwave curfews, banana prohibitions, and the legendary clap to close the workday rule. These weren't just rules, they were symptoms, proof that when people with authority fear disorder, they tend to invent it themselves. As we move toward the final moments of this file, remember, workplaces don't become absurd on their own. They become absurd one rule at a time. Workplaces don't collapse, they erode. If there's one thing these 45 workplace rules reveal, it's that absurdity doesn't appear suddenly inside a company. It enters quietly, through a memo, a policy update, a new HR initiative designed at 2 a.m., or a manager who misinterprets authority as control. And once inside, it grows. It grows in the office where employees can't drink water at their desks, in the call center where standing is an act of rebellion, in the firm where scissors must be placed on a table before being picked up by another person, in the meeting where a second nod is considered excessive enthusiasm, in the building where walking counterclockwise is a disciplinary offense, in the workplace where a banana is contraband, in the Zoom call where clapping twice is mandatory to close the energy loop. Each rule alone might seem harmless. Strange, yes. Annoying, definitely. But harmless. Until you realize these rules don't just shape behavior. They shape culture. They shape morale. They shape the invisible, psychological air people breathe every day. A workplace isn't destroyed by one catastrophic event. It's destroyed by thousands of tiny absurdities accumulating over time. Rules that chip away at autonomy, dignity, logic, and the simple human feeling of being trusted. You can measure the health of a company by the freedom of its employees, and you can measure its dysfunction by the pettiness of its rules. Because rules reflect fear of risk, fear of unpredictability, fear of people being people. And fear makes organizations do strange things. It makes them regulate how loudly someone can laugh, dictate the angle of a chair, ban certain colors on certain days, control the direction people walk, monitor bathroom usage in spreadsheets like a dystopian attendance log, force employees to speak in carefully engineered emotional scripts, or restrict microwaves with the precision of a military operation. These are not signs of structure, they're signs of fragility. Healthy workplaces don't need to police human behavior at microscopic levels. Unhealthy ones can't stop. So what do these 45 rules teach us? Not that workplaces are evil, not that managers are villains, but that absurdity thrives wherever power grows faster than perspective, where policies are written faster than they're questioned, where compliance becomes more important than common sense. This file is not just a record of ridiculous regulations. It's a reminder that workplaces don't become absurd overnight. They become absurd when people stop asking, why are we doing this? This has been The Absurdist Files, File 012, 45 ridiculous workplace rules Americans had to follow. A tour through the offices where logic retired early and employees learned to survive not through efficiency, but through endurance.